Alright, Collective Will, it's September 23rd, and so this is this is kind of like the the energy hiring event that I had for somebody that I see untapped potential in, to do a certain to have their own YouTube channel within my business and the algorithms that my twin flame and I have created. Specifically, we needed someone with a very strong spirit, obviously, because it's just it's how we do. But I labeled the video Serenity Lady, but I don't. I'm just using the first part of their YouTube handle because it's how it started. We didn't really exchange names during our conversation because I do a lot of things at the soul level. So, I'm not really big with names because I like to, fill out the energies and stuff like that first. And but this one stood out a lot. So first of all, I'm just going to refer to this individual as Serenity, which that means the state of being calm, peaceful, and untroubled. There was a lot with her, and but it started out all light, so that's the different part. And like I've said, I have this thing where being an earth angel, and then the other things that I do, in the job I hold in the cosmos as a soul auditor, which is such a weird thing to still say to this day, but that's what I do when I'm not in this flesh suit. So the conversation went very great, and I'm grateful to have met her and her energy, and I appreciate her spirit, her soul, and the temple for being vulnerable and honest with me. And I say that because what transpired into the next day, because so this weekend I was feeling extra magnetic. I have mainly in my heart space, because I was holding these interviews, not interviews like INNER views, and so I had never done this before, but I recognized that there are times where I was doing that, especially when I was in those situations of spiritual warfare. When I was, my earlier videos, I kind of talked about some of it. There's still some things I haven't really mentioned a lot about, just because I just don't. I only bring them up if they need to be brought up, and so pretty much Serenity. I was holding energy interviews and energy hiring. And when I say hiring, I mean like bringing on your energy. And I I hope that you'll take my twin flame and I up on our offer, because there's a lot of things that was going on, and that's kind of one of those things that just happens when it comes to me dealing with or coming into an encounter with any type of witch. It really doesn't matter what type they are. I mean, there's just always just so much. And there's some history to that. But ultimately, I've recognized it. I made all the links, and there's a whole network of it, and so it's a lot. But on that day, though, I don't know if you recognized it or not, but you sat down, and I was like, yeah, I'm spiritual as well, and I'm just going to say your spirit guides definitely led you there. I don't know if you believe in that, but I'm just letting you know you do have some spirit guides, along with your strong-spirited, energy, that, and along with the manifestation I made that I'll talk about it here in a minute, but you pretty much walked into the moment, and, it was, for me, it was a miracle, because, I knew at some point, like, my twin flame would transition, like, out of her role as, a Christian witch, and, step into a role, that I know her truth to be, that I've said in, my previous episodes, where I saw her as another angel, as an earth angel. Like, I seen her right through her, as my equal, and we had to work through a lot of that, and it wouldn't have happened had I not unconditionally loved her, despite a lot of situations with witches that I had that I didn't know. I mean, like, even going through a lot of that, there were a lot of dimensions, and because witches do what they do, there's a lot of there's an ET factor to it that they didn't even realize, but they were there's just a lot of illusions, and there's another aspect of, it would make me ill in ways and just tired. But dealing with all that, though, I knew she was, I was honestly thought that, like, my twin flame would have transitioned, from the Christian witch role into, her earth angel and her more angelic role that, I know her to be and see her to be. I thought that would have happened after her and I started living together, and, but God does work in mysterious ways. Amen to that. So it was just a lot of things going on that day, but, I did tell you, it was like, I was just writing in my calendar about how I feel extra magnetic today, and, so, a while back, I asked God, I was like, God, send me someone with a strong spirit to, teach others, on YouTube about witches, because I'm like, yeah, I can do that, but I'm letting you know that when I deal with witch energy, Serenity, like, my ADHD symptoms go through the frickin' roof, and it is, like, it's very playful, but there are things, and it's like, because I'm so good at understanding and understanding others and seeing people's light, and that was something I didn't mention. It's not just so much me seeing people's light, but I didn't tell you about how I am a super powerful seer, and but that was just this, something that I had to, come to love about myself. But, it was always there, even when I was unconscious, and I would always wonder things. But, there are things that I've done during the time I was building my business, and even before that part, that, let's just say that it was scary enough to alert some higher ups in, we'll just say Homeland Security, and that was before I even started training with them when I was doing my intelligence and PsyOps training. So I scared the crap out of myself, but nobody was showing me any compassion, because I really went from being a silent individual to, I wouldn't say like a canary, but I was seeing things, and a lot of my gifts were really coming through during my awakening, and it was, there wasn't a lot of compassion shown. I had people following me, stalking me. I had a lot of things happen. So, yeah, it wasn't fun. But, you know, and I didn't know, you know, what I knew, from the beginning. It was black magic. There was a lot of black magic, and I didn't have to go and look and go research what black magic is. Like, that is how strong it was coming through, and, you know, my spirit guides, my angels, and all that were like, this is what this is. You don't gotta go look it up. This is what this is. And I didn't really have anyone to turn to in those moments. So, to me, it's important, you know, and I don't, you know, I believe in giving people second, third, whatever chances, because, like, I get it. Like, I totally get it. Like I said, when I'm not in this flesh suit, I audit souls, you know, and then God does what God does. And, you know, I do acknowledge that I do have a lot of authority, you know, that God gives me, where I can act in the capacity of God, but I don't exercise that as much as a lot of people want me to, and I have my reasons for it. Because I did have a lot of individuals siphoning from me, because I have always been connected to Source since birth, and there was a lot of reasons why, but like this, my stories, my testimonies, my anchor, like, all my stuff is, some people would wonder, you know, there were people wondering, like, how I survived it, and it took a lot of things for it to click in them, like, oh, this person is an angel that's embodying human form, and that was something else I had to wrap my head around, because, like, I knew it to be true, but it was just trying to say it was the weird part. And but eventually, you know, I got really comfortable with it, but yeah, a lot of my situations had to do with witches, because a lot of them know, you know, that I can help them and assist them, you know, and speak good into them, because, you know, everyone deserves equal opportunity to ascend. And so I was kind of doing that stuff before I even had my awakening. I just wasn't conscious of it, a lot of it, but I would have certain questions that I'd ask myself. So when it comes to me actually, you know, working with witches, there's a point where, ultimately, it's like I use what happened, but I now I have, you know, I have control over the situation, you know, and I always did. It was just the illusions that a lot of them were setting, and the black magic was, you know, causing, it was like they were good at making those veils, but I was seeing right through it. And even ones that there was a point where I was my twin was pretty much working with some people that were in a coven, and the coven started out with 90 something members. I mean, it wasn't, they had been doing it for a couple years, and it wasn't getting very far. But then somewhere along the line, one of the leaders in their hierarchy, because they had a lot of different ones, it was so confusing. It was so confusing how it all worked, but it was like in the insurance and finance industries, and someone had the idea of, well, what if we, bring, her in and try to make her feel like she's welcome and she's heard, and like, so that happened. So they tried to blow smoke up my butt, and I was, I picked up on it really, really early, but, and I didn't want to be there, and in those situations and in a lot of those conversations, but, because I'm not the type that likes to play games. I don't do that. Where my soul's from, we don't do things like that, and it's wild, the things that happen and the kind of karma people take on when they come into the Earth's atmosphere. And so that coven was, only like 97 members, and then within 3 months it was up to 200, and I started seeing the patterns, and that's kind of one of those third party situations I was telling you about, where I started telling my twin, I was like, we need to get out of this. And so there was a lot of strategy involved in that, because they had her pretty sucked in there, and then even after her energy was gone out of there, there were times where I felt like she was just leaving me in there. She tried to leave me in there to, suffer or something, and that did come across, but I was like, God built me different, built her different, but it was so weird. And being multi-dimensional, beings, made it even weirder, because it was like really trying to find those good dimensions, and to meet each other on, where those situations, were just, we weren't existing in those spaces to kind of help cleanse our energy. Like, so we're very good at quantum leaps and quantum jumps and things of that nature. So yeah, it's I'm not really big about, talking about a lot of the power and all the things. Like, I'll talk about, some of the gifts and some of the things I've done, but I don't lead with that. Like, yeah, it's all there. It exists. That's great. I'm grateful for all of, my power and my authority, but at the end of the day, I just like the narrative of, I lead with my heart space, because that is what I feel is needed, in the world, and so in this planet. So that's, my choice. And there are a lot of energies that come up that, really want me to be extremely boastful and get stuck in an ego, and it's like not my thing. And so, like, yeah, I still talk about it, but it's not like I'm trying to flex on anyone, or whatever, and be like, look at me. Like, it's just that kind of energy makes me uncomfortable. So when I deal with witches of many forms, there's a lot of that kind of energy in there, because, like, I get it, there was the things, like, over time and over generations, there was that stuff that happened with the Salem things, and, that energy, needs healing. And that's why I'm grateful that you walked literally into you know, my energy interviews, and because I only had a couple that day. I only needed one for psych and one for, you know, the spiritual domains, and so it literally happened in that order. It was actually really great, but but there was a lot in your energy. We had great conversation, and you know, but so, you know, and I haven't had too many conversations with individuals where I mentioned a lot, where the topics of my YouTube my YouTube channel, were like, you were hitting a lot of the topics. So like, there was a lot of discernment I had to use there, because I was like, oh my gosh, is this another paid actor coming in trying to be ridiculous with me right now? Like, I wasn't trying to really think that, but I mean, after, you know, I wasn't thinking it in the moment, but I mean, I discerned it, you know, afterwards, because I mean, I was just trying to really hold the light in the conversation, but those things were trying to come through, and I'm like, I mean, I didn't have any doubts, because like, it's just the way that it came in. You know, you literally walked into my energy field where my heart was completely open, and it was completely a safe space, and it was, you know, the things just happened, you know, and so, you know, like, all the right things were said, but the energy shifted, you know, but as far as the YouTube thing goes, is, you know, I hadn't ever asked anyone for their YouTube handle, because I honestly, you know, I'm not out there trying to let anyone jump in, and, you know, like, because of the experiences I had with, you know, the witch coven and all that, and, you know, my family history has dealt with a lot of different covens, but there was one in particular that, with the WFG, that really tried to, there was just some things that happened, you know, before I was even born, and, so that came up, and, you know, a lot of it had to get worked out, and it did, but, you know, the issue was I wasn't getting a lot of credit, you know, where it was due, and, so that was, you know, I was used to that, but yeah, so, because of my more conscious, you know, experiences I had with, that witch coven, there's a lot, and, I mean, the way that a whole situation played out, was just wild, and, like, I look back at it now, and I'm like, I literally went through that all by myself, because it took a while for my ancestors were kind of trying to help, but, you know, there was something going on with my spirit guides, that were really just, I had to retrain them, because they were running off some program of something else that somebody wrote, you know, and there are people out there that know how to write code against somebody, and that it's a lot to do with the quantum mechanics, but it's the things that I know, it makes connecting with others really hard, but ultimately I, you know, lead by my faith and not, you know, always by my sight. So it's a hard discipline to have, and I didn't have issues with it, you know, until it was like the more knowledge and the more I used my heart space, it was like the more was coming in, the more knowledge, the more wisdom. And I'm like, I'm grateful for all of it, but That was kind of the beauty in some of it, though, is so the witch coven only got me at my, like, I knew a lot of the stuff. I knew where it was going to lead. Like, it's like when I was really little, I knew I was going to have to fight the devil, like it is. I was getting the downloads, but I didn't know it was going to have to do with the twin flame relationship and connection and all that. And now I'm at the point where, yeah, we fought through that energy. So as far as, I remember you said something about, I just want to get these out of the way, it's like you have your own beliefs and I have mine. But one of them is, you said you don't really believe or have this thing where you don't believe that, twin flames should get married or whatever. So there was that one. And then when I mentioned that I don't know how to hate anybody, I probably said I hate you to two individuals when I was in my early teenage years, and no, one was an early teenager. One of them was a sibling when I was in my more child years before I became a teenager. And so yeah, I felt very weird and very horrible those two times, and I remember them, and because I feel my way through, so they were in my heart memories. And I remember getting really sad even after I said it. And then I went into, after that happened, then when I was a teenager, I would say things like I hate my homework and hate these shoes and hate these pants. And then weird things started happening anytime I used the word hate. So that taught me that I'm not supposed to hate anybody. And so or have like envy and jealousy of others. So that part of me made a lot of people kind of just like, ugh, like there's no way. And so during our conversation, I remember you saying what you said, but I didn't hold it against you. I'm letting you know that the God I worship is an unconditionally living God. The God that I know, like in the universe that my soul originated from, we don't know hate. We don't use that. Like, and a lot of our currency is energy. And it's kind of like a utopia in a way, but it's not like how most people, like how TV portrays it. It's a lot different. So like that's where my soul originates from, and when I'm more in my like ET form and all that. So I acknowledge what you said about it, but the other part is the devil and God work hand in hand, and I'm telling you that your God is different from my God. And there were parts in the twin flame relationship and connection that I have, and even with others where those narratives would come up. And I'm telling you right now that a lot of that was coming from the individuals that I had encountered and energies I worked with, and the entities of the FBI and the CIA, the NSA and the Homeland Security, whenever that was going on. Because I didn't ever think that until I actually started working with them. And then you mentioned that you had two family members in the CIA that love you. And then, I would question, exactly why, maybe, and it's okay to ask, like, why. But there's some old programming that was going on in those situations. So through a lot of your energy assessment that came through the next day, because it was all light all day, like even after you left, I mean, it was very light, but it was the next day. So there were some things trying to really really come through, and I'm like, what is going on here? One of them had to do with food, and I was like, what? Like, I had eaten something, and there was a certain sauce I eat with the restaurant, and it always gives me kind of like an upset stomach, but I love the taste of it, so I eat it. But the demons that were, attached to you in some way, released, after you left. But there was so much going on, and but they were trying to put seeds of doubt, and I'm over here, like, they're really trying, and I was like, I ate that sauce, I mean, that's really what it is, and I'm like, what is going on here, like, but they still kept trying to come through, and, you had mentioned, something about, eating, the people messing with your food, and so I just want you to notice that you were the one eating the food during the conversation, but I knew there was a situation that happened where I did encounter a witch in a town that I was standing in a line to get a sandwich, and I just had this very weird energy come through, and I felt that I needed to leave, because this individual was standing next to me in this line, and she didn't look like she'd be a witch, but there's just something in her energy field that, and I didn't know who this person was, but there was something there where she was trying to put some kind of hex on my food, and I was in front of her in the line, so I walked away, and then as I did, it was weird because the person she was with, he told her, hey, it's not worth it. And then she kind of scoffed, and they left. And then I, walking, and then I ended up falling down. And I was like, well, that's kind of weird, but, I've been trying to really look into it, because I try not to really think, those kinds of thoughts, even with my discernment, I'm very well practiced in it, but it was very odd. So that was the one thing I had with the food thing, but there were others that I had when I was with an ex, and the being sick and all that. It started with the food related incident, and then it ended up into a lot of other incidences. So there was a lot of black magic being used, and it was all, a lot of it tied into the life insurance, health insurance, a lot of those industries, that industry really. And so that I have a lot of experience in that, and there are just so many things that I know and I have experience in that sometimes it does blow people's mind, but I don't really talk about a lot of those older ones just because they have been done. It's over, but I've already put my, work in with that. So, but when it comes to the food part, there are times whenever I have interactions with individuals where, especially with witches, where witches like to project a lot at me, and there are other ones that do healing and things of that sort, or claim, these things, and, I'm not saying that, you're, phony or whatever, but I'm just saying, like, I have had encounters with, that were there to help me build my discernment, where I've had to really really, really go through a lot of layers of discernment, because there are multiple dimensions of discernment, and that is something that's not talked about a lot. But so I've had situations where I've had individuals that literally hold a conversation with me, and you know, had I not known any better, from some of their other mannerisms, it was like talking to a doggone robot. And I know that in the APD industry, there are these newer APDs that are human-like, but I was like, surely somebody want to spend that much money just to, but, there are a lot of other people that have spent a lot of money to do some other just distasteful, ugly, hateful things towards me. So I really couldn't put that past, I couldn't not, use that as a level of discernment. And that just kind of told me, like, well, this is kind of where the world, or at least Earth, is trying to go to in the AI industry. And so this is why your discernment's being exercised in that capacity. And I'm like, it got annoying after a while. I mean, because it wasn't just one, there was a few of those encounters. Then, like I told you, there's ones with my twin flame, and how she would come through a lot, but I also know, the power of the Holy Spirit. But then it got to the point where I was like, this is kind of, it would also kind of frustrate me a little bit, because I'm like, it would hurt a lot, like a lot, and because it was like I would like feel, her energy coming out of these people. And so it was like, it would just make me really just, want to be next to her even more. And so it sucked. I mean, it didn't happen anymore, after she's obviously transitioned. But when she was in her Christian witch role and in that type of energy, there was a lot of game playing, and things like that. And but I still loved her. I still love her, unconditionally through it all in it. But and then there were situations with where there are some individuals that are able to hold that kind of energy, and it would come through super strong. And I don't know if you know what a walk-in is, or a walk-on. It's something, in the twin flame community, where when your twin flame isn't quite, if you're one that's in the romantic, connection, and you both recognize it, there are times where, the universe or God, or the higher, forces of energy will send somebody to help fill the void, the space. And there were a couple of those, and those ones they were a lot, especially when you know who your twin flame is, what they look like, and then you're able to track all their energy back to individuals that kind of sort of look like their doppelganger, throughout your life. So like, it's and then they even held those energies, and so recognizing all that in different timelines, it was very hard. And this was mainly whenever my twin flame was in her Christian witch role. And and I before I even found that out, about her, I still, those things would still happen. So it was just like, there's a lot, like, there's just so much. So when it comes to quantum entanglements, that's my specialty. Because I can sit here all day and night, talking about the different situations, but quantum entanglements, that is my specialty area of work, which is why I'm so good at, leading in multiple domains in operations. So, yeah, it's I give myself credit, where it's due, and my twin does, the same, and I do the same for her. But there's, I don't, we're just not the types of individuals that like to be out there telling everyone, but there came a point where I had to be like, well, people got to know things because we can't be gatekeeping, and that's just what it is, because my twin flame gatekeeped on me for, at least a decade after we originally met. So, yeah. And she had her version of how she built business, but ultimately things happened, learning moments happened, and then she finally decided to tell the truth to me, and not necessarily words, but her energy did not lie. And so that was a lot. And I would just kind of be like, what are you doing? Because there was only like maybe one time I really had to put some bass in my voice, and like, I'm not gonna lie to you, like before I was about to make this episode, I had to remove the bass from my voice and kind of let the energy play out, because it was I don't like getting in that type of energy. It's not, I don't like raising my voice. I don't like putting a lot of bass in my voice, because I don't, I have my other ways of dealing, with situations without having to yell. And ultimately, it's not really me yelling, at a person. It's me, like, just yelling at the situation, because usually, I get it. It's a situation. It has energy. But people did use that narrative, against me at some point, to continue to keep on doing the horrible things they were choosing to do to me. And I was like, God, I still love him unconditionally. Like, and so to sit there and just witness those things happening. And some people, I saw their faces. I mean, there's a good majority of them I seen their faces, but it didn't matter whether I seen their face or not, because my gift as a seer, like, sometimes there were moments where I was like, the faces would come to me in a dream, where I'd get a quick vision of it, and then I would see that face later on, and I was like, okay, so that's really weird. And so there was a lot of things I really had to pay attention to, and when dealing with quantum entanglements, they're a lot more than, they're a lot more complicated than, the like the witch energies, but the witch energies have more of a more like a Joker vibe, but quantum entanglement energies, they can have all those things, but a lot of them aren't quite, they're so assigned to such a bigger network of energies that it it's a lot, it's weird to say it, but it's like, it's a lot easier for me to be able to tap in and then follow the network. So it's kind of like rabbit holing, but not it's just a different. It's just different, and not a lot of people do it because it is intense and scary, and that's aside from my twin flame connection, the things I've experienced in that. So yeah, they're two separate types of intense, but through all that though, the things that I've experienced, were a lot of things that let me know, like, you are going to marry your twin flame, and that's just what it is, because I am worthy and deserving of all the love and, caring and passion and kindness and stability and all those things in my life, and everybody's entitled, to, if they have those desires, if they know that's their thing, especially as twin flames, because those connections aren't, they're not nice, all the time, but, they can be, and that was one of those things that my twin and I had to work through, because there were a lot of people out there really, didn't want us to come together, but they all wanted good for the world, but they had control issues, and that was really hard to experience my twin in that capacity whenever, ultimately I knew, what I knew the truth of her to be, because before her and I's, before we reincarnated here on Earth, she came in first, and then I came in after her, because there was just a lot of things going on, and this happened a few times, and then we kind of, go up and we'll do our thing, and then, literally, for a decent amount, I was kind of just, what's going on, and so I had to come in after this, in this lifetime, and, it's taken a while, but, the time's different up in the cosmos than it is here on Earth, so, yeah, but we actually, sat at the same table, in our profession, and she does something different than I do, but, that part I can't tell you, because it's just one of those things I wasn't, supposed to, it's just one of those things, but, we were, actually more like a soulmate kind of thing, up there, but, coming onto Earth, it had to be escalated to a twin flame situation because of all the things that happened, and so that have a different way than what the collective and the twin flame communities talk about, of explaining these things, because of my ability to see, and they're multi-dimensional, so it's not one fits all, and that's why I'm not, I wasn't upset whenever you said that. I'm just saying that was something, I'm just speaking truth into it, because my belief is different than your belief when it comes to twin flames, and so I didn't want that to be one of those thought energies. If you do decide to, work with my twin flame and I, and and we can go over that way later, the details, but this kind of me making the offer, and kind of, not kind of, but I'm, making the offer from both of us, and trying to put all the things kind of on the table that I feel need to be said. That way there isn't, those thought energies don't come up, and it's different from how obviously other how people do hiring, because there's so many different ways now, after COVID, all those different ways came up, but it's me just addressing where I feel like there might be some things, but ultimately, my twin flame and I do want to, like, we see the value in you, and so that's the main point, is there's, and we know how to, we have the resources and the things to help you, get to the best version of yourself. And a lot of that was kind of what played into what happened, that day, and the way it happened. And I told you how I'm a master manifester, and your face kind of did a weird thing at that point, and then you kind of stared off into space a little bit. But I was like, oh, she's probably processing or something, so I was like, that's cool. Like, so I didn't take offense to anything that was said, but everything was super great, in the conversation. But the other part is when we had the conversation about hate. And so the weird part of it is that because I've been around people that use that word, and it doesn't happen. I'm not like, oh, well, I just want to be around them, but oddly, whenever you said that, I was saying things a certain kind of way, and then it, your demons were trying to come out and play, and they showed themselves. But I was like, well, it's not, her. It's like, I understand. There's a lot of things that come with, being a witch, but a lot of it was like the projections of, you said I needed to, what do you say? You said I was stuck in an old belief, way of thinking, and then you said I needed to clear. You kept talking about my sacral, and clear my sacral, and I was telling, even after I told you about, the illness I had for, a few years, and then I was like, my sacral's good to go, like it is. But I still did my due diligence. I still had to do some cleansing, because I do that with anyone that I have, after having a conversation with anyone, really, because I just, I don't like to just kind of leave the whatever, it's just something I don't like to do. But especially when I, there aren't too many individuals that come and say, and they're okay and they're confident saying, I'm a witch, so like, that I love that about you. Like, I do. That's a really good thing, that you're confident with that, because that's exactly what I, asked God. I was like, I need somebody like that, and strong spirited and passionate and like all those things. So, that's why I'm taking the time to kind of say the hard things, the weird things, and the disagreements that we might, have, just so we know that, our beliefs are a little bit different, but the biggest one I do have, an issue with, is because, usually whenever, there's a witch that's put in my path in a very knowingly capacity, it's usually one of those situations where it's a cry for help. But I do my work to make sure that I was not putting off some kind of signal. But because of the circumstances that I had set up in my energy for that day, for the weekend really, and then the way it all played out, the projections and all the things you were saying, and the thing about hate, and the thing about how God and the devil, work together, that I'm just going to say right now, that is for where your soul and your spirit guides were, the way that the good energies were putting themselves out is they, in your higher version of yourself, they were putting out signals to me and even to your animal that you brought. And that was another different thing, because I usually don't do a lot of the work with the animals, but your animal and I were working together, and there was a lot of noise going on, and that was kind of like, oh. But I was present as a leader, and I was really trying to like listen. And so but as far as pattern recognition goes, it was all present, as what it usually plays out as is the old belief system thing. So like you were saying all the things that you were having issues with, and it was a lot like how you go to God, and you're like, God, I need like this to go away, and it's like you ask and you shall receive, but you weren't saying, I'm asking, because your version of God and my version of God are different, and like my God doesn't work with the devil, because we don't play around in them kind of energies. Like it's different. So the God and the devil mentality, and programming, they work together. Like it doesn't. It's an old belief system, and I'm going to say it like that because that is. I've worked past that energy myself, but it didn't take long. But it was something I had to. I experienced it the way I need to experience it, so I can put that message out, because it is an old belief system, and it is based a lot in fear. And there was the other part, so going forward, like that's I feel like we can find a ground on that. But there's a prayer that I want to do for you, that to help you. Like I've already set up the rockets ships, they're already launched. So in the energy field, I don't know if you felt different sometime after 5 o'clock today, but I was sending a lot of that healing energy towards you. But I also have a prayer to help reset your energy in a way. Or actually I'm just going to say reset your energy. So that's something that's going to happen. But even after that, if you choose to, take my twin and I up on our offer, then, that's up to you. But, if not, then no harm, no foul. I got to, do what I do as a healer, and, with my degrees and all the things, and, my authority and my power, and to, help you heal and move on in any way you want to move on. So, yeah, that's something that I'm going to do here in a bit. But yeah, originally, I don't know if you caught it, but originally, when you said you're a witch, you said you're a green witch. I kept saying it back to you. And I believe, and I know this to be your spirit guides and your soul. Like these are things that happen with people in a lot of interactions I have with people. Not just witches. Actually, you're the only one that's really, like I said, like you're the first one I've had in a long time since I fought a freaking coven off by myself. So it's really saying something. I don't believe in coincidences. I believe in miracles and all that. So, and the divine powers and the energies and all the force. Like that's what I believe in. So like a limitless life, you know, I have disciplines, you know, within that, but that's just so I can keep my energy grounded. But a lot of things you were trying to project at me were the very things that, you know, you have to work on, because I can't do that work for you. And that's a big thing that I had in the past with witches is they liked to project, and they liked to get me to do all the work for them. And then they learned once I started I didn't have to push, you know, my power out there too hard. But that's when they started to realize, like, we need to back up and back away. And that was a whole coven of about 200 plus by the time I left, you know. And I don't know what it's like now, but I'm not saying it's to scare you, because I didn't want to mention it during the interview, and the thing about being a seer, because of that situation, because I didn't want to bring that situation to light during then, because it was, you know, it just wasn't needed, you know, because I was in my heart space, and I was, you know, I still unconditionally love those individuals, and I still, you know, wish them all well in their journey and that they've healed and all that. But you know, and I learned a lot from the situation, you know, so I don't, there's a lot of learning moments, so I didn't see a lot of mistakes there, but there was a lot of overkill, you know, so I just didn't want to bring that to light in our conversation, because you did come in and your energy was in a very vulnerable, honest, you know, it started off of honest, loving, you know, divinely mother, like that's how it came in. And then by the time you said hate, that's whenever your the negative spirits and demonic spirits that were surrounding in your energy were trying to pretty much get you to self-sabotage, like as if I would look down on you for, you know, saying hate in the way that you believe about it, or, you know. And so, but I knew it was going on, because I was I didn't expect something like that to happen, but it happened. But I've been prepared to have those conversations. I mean, literally, to me, like I told you, like life to me, really a lot of times it's a simulation. The fact that I have to feel my way through it, there's not a lot of people like me that are able to know life's a simulation and actually have feelings and not become jaded. Like, I'm a very rare breed, and I'm one of a kind. I'm just, it's there's a lot about me, and God put a lot in me, you know, to deal with a lot of different situations. But I don't see myself, you know, I'm not above anyone, because I feel like everyone can get, you know, to my level, you know. And but I am above situations. And so when people get stuck in situations, which is what a lot of, you know, the more negative parts of you were coming through after you mentioned hate, because something kept trying to get me to disengage after you said it, and it took a couple times for you to say it, you know. And I really had to see, like, if it was coming from your soul, or if it's coming from just a energy, you know, or a spirit guide, or like, because sometimes we get spirit guides that they just don't know what they're freaking doing anymore, and they're stuck. Your spirit guides can be stuck in old belief systems. That can happen. I dealt with it. Like, mine were so far lagging that, I mean, I literally fought a coven by myself until like towards the end, and then they're, oh, hey, we're here. Like, it was really weird. And so, and then I outgrew that kind of group of them. And like, I mean, you can get different spirit guides on the way. And like, I'm sure you know all this stuff. I'm saying it because, you know, I want to let you know, like, I have a range, like ranges, multi-dimensions of different things that I work in, and, and with, and that I can do. That's why I'm in human resources, consulting and things like that. And that's why the way that I was found, by my mentors, and even my mentors weren't mentoring. Like, it was like this, my systems were, like, I had never really been able to get with the program. So, like, just coming from what I've dealt with, and just realizing that I was like, I've been really riding solo a lot through most of my life. But it was because I wasn't training my spirit guides. I wasn't training them like I was when I was a little kid, and when I did missionary work and things like that, but I didn't know any better then, even though I had a lot of knowledge and wisdom. But there were people that were just projecting towards me, and they were witches, and it was probably from their ancestors, but it was a lot of unconscious projecting, and people just being jealous of me. And I was a kid, and I didn't, I was just trying to spread love and light and Jesus and all those things. Like, I didn't think of any of that stuff, So just coming from that, it's like there's not really a lot of things. I mean, there's not really anything any part of your spirit team or whatever can do that would ever, make me think, that I needed to, disengage. There are energy cords that, I had to kind of cut after a conversation, but it was mainly just because the demonic, the demons, your demons that were trying to come out, there's like a responsibility you have to take for your demons, and a lot of it was based in, the way your old belief of, how God and the devil work hand in hand, and that's old. Like, we can't ascend thinking and believing that, and that's just the truth. And like I said, I thought that at one point, but it wasn't very long that I thought that, because it showed up in a way, and then I dealt with it. I did my due diligence, and then it went away. And then it wasn't until just recently, like, I haven't had that really come up a lot, until I had a conversation with you. And so there were a lot of things about you that made me realize that your spirit guides, and maybe you at some knowing capacity maybe picked up on some of my energy just because of the way that things played out that day. But there was some meddling around in the energy field, and so I wanted to bring that to light and speak truth to that, because it was present in your energy, but it didn't feel like it was necessarily you, but obviously it was attached to you. So as far as thought energy goes, so that was those things, because there were, energies that were trying to, convince me that, twin flame shouldn't, get married or things like that. Like, it was ridiculous stuff. And so I had to work through all of that. And then, a month later, things came to light. And I'm not saying it was all you, because there was obviously other things. Because there were communities that I, was viewing and kind of following at the time, as part of my, research and stuff like that. So it was like, I'm not putting that all on you. Just let you know. But it was a part, like, there was a face put to it, and that was kind of one of those things where the negative energies and the demonic spirits and things like that were really trying to convince me to, disengage and, not, go through with, trying to present this offer. And I know this sounds all over the place, but I'm telling you, like, the way it came, this is a lot more, I even wrote some of it down, but this is a lot more lined out than the way the energy came through. And, and like I said, I'm really, really good, with quantum entanglement. So I haven't had a situation like yours for a while. I mean, it's been, with the witches specifically, I've had individuals that were not witches, that were just regular people that they had some psychic abilities of some sort that were really trying to play some mind games, and they messed around and found out. I don't deal out karma. That's between them and their God, and that's them. That's their situation. I'm just like, I send love, light, unconditional love, and I walk away. And healing energy, and I walk away. But there are people that really try to manipulate energy, and so that was something going on in your energy field. And the link, what your animal was telling me was, so I don't know if you noticed, that once, I'm sure your animal does this, once they get out of the vehicle, like, and I had to put that part in there, but, animals have patterns too, and they do it for a reason, and sometimes it's to kind of protect themselves in ways, because animals got a lot of the same similar things as humans kind of have, that they kind of go through some of those, it's not something I talk about a lot, because it's really, to me, it's kind of eerie, and I'm just going to say it like that. There's but I'm really good with working, with spirits of animals, and so I just found it kind of interesting how you said your animal's a service animal. Well, I'm letting you know that animal, maybe it's something linked to, because I was being guided not to say exactly what animal it is, so there's something in your natural animal energy that you, I guess, work with in some way. We all have that, but you were saying things like we don't eat people. You were saying things like that, so I was like, is her cat's spirit guides trying to? There were some things like coming out that, I was like, well, dang, I was like, there's something else going on here. And I was like, but once your animal got out of the vehicle, it started making its sounds, and I was making those sounds, back to it, and I don't do that with animals. So just know that I don't mimic their sounds and try to talk back with them. It's not what I do. So that was interesting that it happened that way, because there were some divine forces definitely working and standing there in protection within my energy, because my heart was very open. It became more open today, as I'm over here launching rockets and writing out this prayer for you and all that. It was just a lot. And but yeah, But the thing with your animal, the interaction I had, and I haven't had to use my mediumship or anything like that with animals, because usually I just do like a soul thing and spirits. Like I have this thing with horses, strong spirited, horses and bears. So I'm able to connect with animals that way, but the interaction with your animal was different. And so maybe there was a part in one of your past lives that you didn't quite work on that. Maybe that was something that was related to your sacral, because this is kind of what came through after I sort of, assessing the energy more, that a ridge, like when your animal got out of the vehicle and your animal and I started interacting, I kept thinking, like, oh my gosh, I want to picture the animal, because it is a very exotic print and it's very beautiful, and I'm like, I'll take pictures of animals at the zoo, but I mean, like, I was, flabbergasted by your animal, so I wanted to take a picture, but I was like, I didn't want to be rude, but then something else started coming through, and it had to do with energy being siphoned from your animal, and then it was linked to the love you have for your animal, and then someone that took a picture of your animal, or there was a couple of them, but there's mainly one for sure, but I wasn't able to get, who or what or when, like, but the link to your, to the things you're talking about, the sacral, there was someone that was trying to, been trying to really, plan an attack on that part, of your body. And so, perhaps, or there's someone around you that might be dealing with that. But when you were saying it though, like they kind of just let me know that there's something happening. There's an attack happening, because you were trying to project, and I didn't consider it as an attack, because I don't like to think of it that way. I just think of it as a projection, and I've learned the patterns, and so I was like, well, there's something going on here. I mean, it's like I don't blame you for that. Like, it was just, sometimes that happens, with what I will do, it sometimes it's just weird stuff, but, I'm like sitting there, I'm thinking it, and I keep thinking it, and I'm like, maybe I get a picture of her animal, but then, I was just kind of like, I just didn't want to be rude, and, even after I asked, but, so, then there was a couple people that, that regular there, and they, had some senses about them, and your animal kind of confirmed some of that, and the way that your animal's eyes dilated when seeing those certain individuals, because it was different. Like, I was paying attention to a lot of things going on, but yeah, so when that child came to take a picture of your animal, and then your animal kind of, went towards that child and was trying to put its nose on their phone. I don't know if your animal does that, but like I said, there's patterns. So, like, if it does that as a pattern, usually I mean, it's kept trying to put out a signal. So the signal I got from that is that was your animal's way of telling me, hey, this is what's happened. Like, this is the device. Like, so once I saw your animal do that, I was like, oh, okay, so that's what it is. It's the phone. It's the picture. Someone took a picture of your animal, and they, like, the energy from that, and seeing the pictures, was trying to attack you in some way. And so, usually I dealt with a lot of humans in that, where, people do attack loved ones to kind of get the emotions riled up. But this was the first one I've ever had where there was an animal involved, and the love for the animal and someone linking that. But I also know that there are card readers, in tarot and oracle, that they have their animals there, but there's just a lot of love that happens in certain ones, and you can see it, and that's kind of either I see those symbolic and those mutual connections in those comment sections of those things. And there's times where I have to kind of get nudged to go look, because there are some people that try to I can kind of tell there's someone trying to do something with a hidden agenda. There's just certain patterns I recognize, but with yours it was different, because like I said, I hadn't ever, really experienced this, degree of it, with animals. But like, I knew I could, like, deal with these things. I just didn't think I'd ever really have one. But yeah. So, my advice to you would be, start getting okay with telling people no, that they cannot take a picture of your animal. Because then I had to double check. So, I mean, even though I knew, but I tried to do, because it's kind of like a science-y part, that kind of kicks in a little bit too with the spirit. And they kind of have to go hand in hand, and there's all these things, but then I asked if I can take a picture of your animal. And then I wanted to see, how your animal would react. And but then, I purposely asked, I was like, I can watch your animal while you go to the restroom, but, you may have told anyone, no, but there was something else going on with that. But that was kind of like me just kind of testing out, it was like one of those weird things where I was kind of new experiencing the situation, but it was just something I kind of needed to ask and just kind of see. But I mean, like, I wouldn't leave my animal with anyone. I'm just letting you know. But like, I know you probably wouldn't either, but it's just, there's just a reason why I had to ask, and I don't really know what that is now, because I already had most of the things I needed to have to, be able to let you know what was going on. So yeah, even though you had said that, your animal saw the vehicle and it was ready to go, but when he was like trying to, when he was laying by the door and all these things that he was doing, against the brick wall and like all these things, I was like, brick walls equal barriers, and so He's like, your animal's like signaling these things, and like, yeah, it could have happened, but it's like, it wasn't what could have naturally already happened. It was what the signals that he was putting off, that he was trying to tell me, and it aligned with a lot of, some of the conversations that, some of the topics, that we're talking about, but it wasn't talking about animal, but there was just a lot of that energy. But your animal definitely worked in its service animal capacity, just in the spirit. And so this is also a new one for me, but I haven't ever had to, like I said, I can connect with like spirits of, animals and things like that, and it has a lot to do with leadership and things of that nature. But this one was so weird because there was this a past life of your animal soul that he was a he in that lifetime. He had some gift of psychometry or psychometry, pretty much like that gift where you touch things and you can read and the energy from it. It's like I had that same gift in this lifetime, but he had that in a past lifetime. And along with that, he did have a lot of power with his third eye, and then he abused it in some way. And so but he worked through it and like didn't let the shame get to him. But that day was his he pretty much worked through his karma that day whenever I met y'all. So just know that, like I said, this is my first time ever having this, like, in this way, this experience, with an animal and their owner, and even an animal, and there was a time where I went to the zoo a lot, but I didn't get past lives, okay? So that's another thing. I think maybe it's just because of the connection that I said that my twin flame likes that print your animal has, and just how everything really synced up and linked up, and then my thing that I said about cats. I mean, like, I don't have really anything against cats. We have just an interesting relationship, but your cat was there working and trying to, heal the karma he had in his past life. And, I've dealt, like, one big thing that I dealt with, and would say before I even started to experience it was my spirit guides, when I was speaking it out, it was about abuse of power. And before I'd seen any of it, I was already speaking about it. So this is that other thing that I experienced, that I'm, just informing you that, whether you were having issues with your sacral, or you've had issues with your sacral in the past, or if it was something that somebody's planning in the future, this is your confirmation that you were already speaking it, but you're projecting it, and towards me in a way. And I was like, okay, well, I don't know, but that's one of the patterns there. So yeah, your animal was, you know, doing what it needs to do, but yeah, I had, there's some other animal that have like a thing, you know, kind of just have like this weird thing, but yeah, so, now you know, so whatever you need to do with that, but yeah, it's a lot, but, you know, I do want to, like, invite you to, you know, you can come back, up here. I'm usually, here, there, around the same time, sometimes after, noon. So if, you wanted to talk about this or, say your piece in this or whatever, or kind of, give the feedback, or you can just put a comment in the comment section, that's fine. But, I just want to let you know all that, that those were the things that were coming up. And, another thing is, you are a very, very, beautiful woman, and so whenever you said things about hate, I was like, there's no way, the eyes of that soul, can actually believe that. It doesn't make sense. And so I was like, that's not coming from your soul. It's just an energy. It's really just an old belief system, an old programming. I mean, it was something meddling around in your energy as well. So sometimes those energies can be really strong, but I just kind of took the whole situation as, needing assistance and help, and, I'm also a healer, but when you mentioned that you also have a certificate, and, there's a lot of things I really wanted to remember about our conversation, but those energies were coming through, a lot of the good stuff, and like I said, the more negative, negative energies came through the next day, so, like, that just, speaks, to the truth of, like, how much light, and how pure, I am, and genuine I am, and authentic I am in the work that I do, and all the other leaders that I have as my subscribers, and so on and so forth, I like to, I have faith that they're a lot like the same, that they go through, they're in control of their own purification, their own responsibilities, and their own accountability to their energy fields of spirits and their ET part, and like all the things, like I've talked about all this stuff throughout my whole channel, but one thing I'm really big about is protecting our leaders, against spiritual warfare. I have an episode about that, and I need to remember to put that link in the description of this video. But I encourage you to go look at it. But it was one that I realized it was the spirit of that one, and it was in the Bible, was one of the ones I was dealing with, and through a decent amount of my military career, and even as a young missionary, when it came to spiritual warfare, it was, so I laid that spirit to rest, and there was a lot of other things I had to do with that I didn't quite put in the video, but it was different, but it was an experience, and I learned from it. But I definitely didn't call on that one. It was just something that was one of those prophecies that needed to be fulfilled. So that was something else I told you I did. I I recognize prophecies that people might be living through, because I have lived through many, being an ancient galactic soul, and my twin flame has had the same experiences. But again, we had to have our own ways to work through those things. But I've been my twin flames, higher counsel, but I don't, try to flex on that, because I'm just like, that part doesn't really matter to me. I just really want us to get us the work done, and it's not about, who does what, who did what. It's about just creating safe spaces where things like, that we've dealt with, doesn't happen to anybody else, because that's part of ascension. It's getting all those negative energies and, sending them back to hell where they belong, literally in a lot of different ways. So, yeah, those energies can't come with us, and that's okay. I mean, the way science works, there's positive and negative ions, electrodes, they call that. Like, it's okay to have a lot of positive ones, more than negative ones. I mean, that's a whole other conversation. But yeah, so I'm really big about that. When I see leadership in somebody, that's probably another reason why the things happened that they did, but overall, I'm just gonna say it, but like, I don't believe that you did anything wrong, or created I don't think you did anything wrong in the situation, because you came in with light, and that is what mainly held the conversation. But you said you're a green witch, and it wasn't until like after you mentioned hate that then you started saying you're a gray witch, and I was like, ooh, yep. I was like, there's something going on here. It's time to do a shift or a pivot. So I wanted to bring that to your attention, that your spirit guides were, there was some sort of a miscommunication. I didn't look at it like that, and now I just look at it as like, your spirit guides were bringing out your light, and your spirit guides, and your higher self see you as a green witch, not a gray witch. And that's why I was saying it the way I said it. And I said, oh, I learned what a green witch is. And like, I actually did go look that up today. Like I said, like, I've looked at it kind of before, but I'm not big on it, because that wasn't ever one of my things. It was in my bloodline and my ancestors, but in my lifetimes, I didn't ever work in the capacity of any type of witch. And there's a lot of other things that go into that, but I made sure, but because of the things that I'm able to do, and one of my healing things is to heal witches, but like I said, there was a lot of abuse happening. I was being exploited. There was a lot of things happening when I was dealing with those energies. So I don't, I'm very careful and discerning, and even people that have been the paid actors that try to come in and play a certain kind of way, there's still a level of healing, because they're in there playing with the energy, okay? So it doesn't really matter, how or what agenda was happening. I still do my due diligence in my way to keep me protected. And I just, it's not hard for me just to send love, light, and all that, because now my spiritual team knows, and everything's been trained up and blessed up, and like, my networks are very, very solid. And so, there's just a lot, not solid like blocking, but they're very, you know, they work very well with the universal energy and the very good positive divine powers, you know, and forces and things like that. So that took a lot of work, and a lot of it was me by myself. A lot of it was, and that was outside of the coven stuff and all that. Like, my individual journey was like that, and there weren't a lot of people in my path to kind of help guide me through that. So that's why my business and, you know, my Twin Flame and I's business is built, you know, the way that it is because we really believe in protecting leaders and those that have those, you know, that are put in our path, that are presented that, you know. So, you know, even if they're messing around, or they're a paid actor at some point, you know, it's still like, or if there's like an AI, like stuff like that happens, because her and I understand multi-dimensions and the ET alien things and just all the other things, you know, it's like we know, but we're not really focused on like the things that can come through as the negative aspects, because we do understand that regardless, you know, of what's going on, like there's we know how to heal on every single dimension. So, you know, that's us, and it's, you know, kind of hard for some people to wrap their head around that, you know, that her and I exist, but we got a big, our contract with our God it is, I mean, it's a big one, but we own it fully, and we, you know, we use, you know, our powers for a lot of good, and, so yeah, it's a very quantum economics kind of situation. So, yeah, it's, she's not so great at quantum entanglement. So, like, there's a part where, because she didn't do so great before she, you know, started telling me, you know, exposing herself and telling me the truth that, you know, she had been also siphoning my energy and things of that nature. You know, there came a point where she could no longer do that, and then divine intervention came in, and God was like, none of these people deserve you. And then that's when things got really weird, and she made a lot of projections towards me, and a lot of people thought I was a witch, and they were trying to figure out which witch I am, and it was kind of weird, because, like, there was a place in Texas that, I liked those witch sandwich shop, you know, and, but, yeah, I didn't, I was like, oh, that was just one of those weird links. Like, if, probably because I like those sandwiches a lot. And then that actually happened. They were, a lot of individuals are trying to figure out which witch I am. And I'm like, I'm not. Like, that, I had people dipping in and trying to get in my Akashics. And, like, I don't know if you know what happens to individuals that, dip into a seer's Akashic records. But, it's not good, and I don't know exactly all the things that happen. I'm just saying, like, as far as karma, it's not good, and you know, that's why I'm like, I don't have any ill intentions towards anyone, just because, you know, and I just don't hate anyone, and the only thing I know how to do is be genuine, authentic. You know, speak truth into things, illuminate, and sometimes people don't like it. I try to do it the best way I can, because I'm not big with conflict, but because my ultimate intentions are for us just to grow and to ascend, and we do that with love, light, and all those things, but you know, just hate can't exist in those spaces, and that's just what it is, and the spaces that my twin and I have built. So, you know, back to the thing with your spirit guides, is that's how they see you. So, take that how it resonates. But, yeah, it's, I did look up what gray witches, why gray witches are gray witches, and I did see that, you guys do work with the light and the dark, but a lot of the dark was mainly because you had to be on the defense of situations, and that you guys do that to defend yourselves. Yeah, I didn't quite pick up that energy. I'm going to tell you the being around the coven did try to get me to get into those mentalities and that created the hate and the jealousy and the envy and all the things. And so you mentioned some of those, and it was also creating some less things too. So I mean, we both kind of mentioned that stuff too. So yeah, I didn't know how to, and there were energies trying to get me to be that way, and I just couldn't. It's just not how God built me. Like I did, I experienced those feelings and emotions early on in my life, in this lifetime, and it was just a reminder as to why it's not part of me. It's not meant to be part of me. And so, I know we're complete opposites on that, but I'm just letting you know, for the offer, I hope that you reevaluate that part and understand, why, and really feel, the care I have, for your soul and your growth. Because like I said, I don't believe our meeting was a coincidence. It was, for the offer, to happen. And like I said, my twin wasn't great at it, so like that brought it to me, like, hey, like, do the interview with this person. And so our energies kind of guided, and the magnetism helped with that. But I'm just letting you know what was going on and what I was intending that day, and what my spirit guides and your spirit guides and the things going on up in there, angels, that we're working, in both of our best interests. So, yeah, I really, really hope you receive this message very, very well, because you do have a lot of potential, and, my twin flame and I really do need somebody to take that spot of, the education about witches, because that is a big thing that needs to heal. And like I've said, stuff about ADHD is I have this kind of inkling that a lot of ADHD does have to do with generational karma, having to do with, witches and things of that nature. And so just the fact that I somehow managed to, fall into a coven of them that were working in the insurance industry, it made sense because they were burned at the stake at Salem, and me being one of those, a fire sign, and then my ancestors they mastered fire, and medicine. I have a lot of medicine, healers that were in my indigenous side, and so, yeah, and the way that I'm able to really, like, hone back a lot of my, fire, and, like, really be grounded in it is because of the mastering of fire. There's another fire, it's like an ethanol fire, and it's kind of, it's like kind of like invisible in some certain lights, but that's how I'm able to use my element as to not come off as strong as I used to when my passion would get up, and so that's what I was able to really hold myself, in our conversation, regardless of all the energies, because it was a lot. But, I was there for you, and I was, present in the moment, because, you have a strong spirit, and it's really great, and I see that, and my twin also saw that, and I had to go through that too. I was like, did she pay this person to come up in this? Like, I really had to go through that part just because of some past things that happened, but overall, it was like, I'm so grateful for the conversation. I'm grateful for what happened. That's really how I handle a lot of things, because I just don't allow, the negativity to, get me all worked up. And it, like I said, the demons that came out of you and the negative energies were really, really trying, the next day. And I was just like, this is so ridiculous. I don't know how many times I said I rebuke you, devil, in the name of Jesus Christ, so many times. But I was like, I'm going to come on here and, let her know what's going on, and, go from there, because ultimately it's your decision, it's your choice, and then, obviously, with God's will, it'll, all the things will happen the way they need to happen. But yeah, like I said, if you want to come up here and talk about it tomorrow or something or whatever, then that's fine. Usually here just about every day after I get done doing my business work, in the morning. So, so I'm going to say this prayer, and I really hope that you really feel it. And a lot of significance to this is that it was, it was a good 66 degrees, for most of the day when I was preparing this prayer. And 66 is one of those angel numbers. It does represent unconditional love, and as nature would have it, that is also, I'm also 66 inches tall. So, that's just what it is. So I found that very interesting, because usually it's like in the 70s or the 80s, and even when it rained the other day, it was still like in the 70s. So it stayed at 66 degrees for most of the day, especially when I was writing this prayer out. So yeah, I was just like, yeah, this is one of those that just meant to happen. It's a divine thing, and I'm trying to build a friends list, because I don't really have a lot of those either. So if it all works out, it works out, but you get to make those choices. But I was just really guided, to write this prayer and put it on this episode for you. And I haven't done this prayer. I haven't done a prayer like for somebody specifically. So you're first on that one. So congratulations, I guess. I really don't know, man. But I just want you to know, like, that this is just me showing that, I do care about your growth, and I do care about your healing, and I do care about, you as an individual. So, I know we don't know much about each other, and there's not really any kind of capacity of a soul mate thing, like, definitely not a twin flame thing. It's kind of as if, the only thing I can relate it to is like whenever the colonists and the Indians. You know, they kind of crossed paths, and some of them helped each other and some of them didn't. That's the only thing I can relate it to. I mean, there's not really a soul connection, but it's like there was a tribe, but we're just passerbyers. So, but sometimes those passerbyers, you know, some of them turn into great partnerships, you know, in history. So I'm going to speak that in there, you know, but this is kind of how I see it. Because, like I said, this one was, interaction I had with you was very different. You know, it was, but it was the same in a lot of different ways. But there was definitely some quantum entanglements in there, but it wasn't any soul mate or high level soulmate thing or twin flame thing. So I was really wondering what was going on, you know, but I was like, well, probably just a passerby situation, but we'll, you know, just do what I need to do, and, you know, just, you know, put it up there and put it out there and speak truth into it, and let, you know, let what needs to be known, and, you know, you make your choice. So, with that said, I'm going to go over this prayer. Your Heavenly Mother, Father God, as I am in this space and at the capacity of my heart space, and working within it and operating within it, to speak out for Serenity, or whatever alias that she may go by. Serenity, as you step into this new week, it is my prayer that this week will be a turning point for you and your family, including the one with an exotic fur coat. And that at this time, the burdens of all your past lives are lifted as these new opportunities emerge for you and your family by the power nested in me. I pray that my God, that is unconditionally loving and does not exercise hate, gifts you the energy with the energies of grace and leadership in the spirits of those to rise higher than you are today. As you enter this week, I declare that the cycles of misfortune have already been broken. You are no longer bound by the generational patterns of failures, doubt, hate, and old programming that have worked to hold you back by attacking and blocking your wheel of life from reaching higher enlightenment as one of God's divine mothers. With my divine power and authority, I command that a new cycle begins for you. A cycle as a sovereign soul, vested with freedom, blessings, success, progress, and increased energy to maintain your new role as a spiritual, abundant leader. I pray that my God has ushered a fresh season in a time of renewal and new beginnings. May you experience a shift in your energies where unconditional love and light takes root in your temple's foundation. And as that, I hope that your temple flourishes like a newly planted garden of green green planted in the heart of Mother Nature. In your new present season today, allow the rainwater of newly birthed emotions and feelings into compact the earth's soil around your freshly planted roots. Your foundation, where your new faith and new processes are protected by the divine energy forces existing in independent and independent only, and only the positive light for your optimal growth as a leader in a leadership seed. I pray that you encounter souls with loving and strong spirits kindred to mine that will guide you with an otherworldly amount of patience, compassion, carefully crafted algorithms, and unconditional love, the real ones that will uplift and support you, the real ones that my God has put in your new path to guard your doors of opportunity from negative energies, so that the rocket ships of your heart's desires that are now unlocked from the atmospheric ceiling and manifesting to land safe and unscathed. I declare that disappointments of the previous seasons will not follow you any longer. For this present moment, and forward, I encourage you to embrace your untapped potential. I command that all of the positive feelings and emotions keep your cups filled for optimal renewal in all domains of fitness, and that your pillars exceed your own expectations. Welcome home, Serenity. Amen. Stay blessed.